But Hitler's decision to let the British Army get away was taking pure drugs to do the reason.
Starting war, Hitler was really in pretty good health. The irrational mood swings we associate with drug addiction don't really start happening until the tail end of the war.
Lacking obvious answers, historians begin to wonder whether Hitler had some other secret motive for halting his troops at Dunkirk.
It doesn't seem logical. If Hitler orders a halt, it will allow the British to escape. There's got to be some underlying reason why he did it.
The real reason for Hitler's weird halt order may be one of the best kept secrets within the By the 1930s, many British aristocrats were attracted to fascism. Modern liberal democracy had undermined their traditional role as Britain's hereditary ruling class. And like Germany's landed nobility, they blamed their declining fortunes and indebtedness on industrialization and Jewish financiers. A militaristic fascist state that retain capitalism and restore them to their former glory.
But in truth, that's worse sympathetic to
Baronet Oswald Mosley set up the British Union of Fascists. Lord Keynes, a famous economist and friend of Mosley's, expressed admiration for fascist Germany. Edward, the Duke of Windsor, was one of the British aristocrats who paid formal visits to Hitler and gave Nazi salutes. Neville Chamberlain, who until Dunkirk had been Prime Minister, was openly anti-Semitic and appointed fascist apologists into his government.
Hitler regarded Britain's ruling class as his potential threat. He was really flattered by their attention, and he even wrote very favourably about the British Empire in Mein Kampf.
How far did this affect Hitler's decision to spare the British Army at Dunkirk? At this point in the war, it is possible that Hitler was actively trying to make peace with Britain, maybe even to form an alliance. If that is the case, he might have believed that it was in Germany's best interest to spare the British Army. Subsequent events support this theory. On May 10, 1941, a Messerschmitt takes off from a German airstrip in the dead of night and heads towards Scotland. It is flown by a former World War I pilot, Hitler's second-in-command, Deputy Führer Rudolf Hess.
No one is close to confidant of Adolf Hitler. His right-hand man, Rudolf Hess.
Hess's destination is the private airstrip of the Duke of Hamilton at Dungarrow Castle. Hamilton had met Hess in Germany and had promoted closer ties with the Nazis. But Hess misses the target.
Hess couldn't find the airstrip, so just outside Glasgow, he ditches his plane and parachutes down to earth. On land, he sprains his ankle. He's caught by a local labourer who hands him over to the Home Guard, who arrest him.
The local man who caught Hess is filmed for the newsreels.
Yes, I'm the man who got the Rudolf Hess. How did I realize it's taken out of book? Why come out to this?
The next day, the Duke visits Hess.
Hess tells Hamilton that he's here to broker a peace deal with Britain. He puts an incredible offer on the table.
If Britain accepts Nazi expansion eastwards, the Nazis will respect the British Empire. Effectively, an alliance between Britain and Nazi Germany. Is Hess acting alone as he claims? Or was he following orders from the Führer?
It seems inconceivable that Hess acted without Hitler's approval.
Ever since Hess joined the fledgling Nazi Party in 1920, he idolised Hitler. We even helped him to write the Nazi manifesto Mein Kampf in prison.
Hess had remained Hitler's side ever since. In 2011, historian Matthias Ulrich discovers a 28-page handwritten document written by Karl-Heinz Hitler.
Hitler was on man who had the unenviable job of telling Hitler that
Oh shit, what is that?
But according to this document,
I got a 1957.
You would say, if you were Hitler, and you just
Yeah, right there.
right-hand man had flown to the enemy, you'd have some connection.
What do we got?
Hinch says that when he tells him
1957 1-cent wheat penny.
Hitler calmly dismisses him without a word. He also says that Hitler appears to be well aware of Hess's flight. For many Nazi sympathizers in the British ruling class, it is an attractive offer. And Churchill comes under pressure from them to meet Hess.
Churchill has a problem. Members of his own cabinet want to make peace with Hitler.
But though many British aristocrats admire Hess, the British public hates them. Mosley's fascists are attacked by crowds of angry locals when they try to march in London's East End. Anti-Nazi newspapers see their circulation soar. Churchill understands the anti-Nazi mood in Britain.
Churchill's not called the British bulldog for nothing. He tells him he would rather go down choking in his own blood than peace with this mad and evil dictator.
Churchill would rather go to the cinema than discuss a truce with the Nazis. He tells Hamilton, Hess or no Hess, I'm going to see the Marx Brothers.
Hitler goes on the offensive. He moves into damage limitation. He strips Hess of all his facts. He declares that he was suffering from hallucinations and was mentally disordered.
Rudolf Hess is arrested and in 1945 convicted by the First International War Crimes Tribunal in Nuremberg, Germany. He is sentenced to a life of total solitude as the only inmate in Spandau prison, where he spends the next 40 years.
Never able to discuss it.
Hangs himself in prison, age 93.
To this day, debate still rages about Hess's very mysterious mission. Was he acting on his own, or did he have Hitler's blessing?
Support for the Nazis among Britain's upper classes is still a cause of embarrassment. And the reason for Hitler's weird decision to let the British Army go remains unknown.
In many ways, it still seems like this episode of the war is as weird now as when it happened.
Strange glowing spheres in the wartime skies defy explanation. America's top secret vampire squadron. A mystery mass grave and World War II whodunit. And atomic torturers, Britain's secret SS. Conflict on a scale never seen before or since. A new kind of war. This is war. It is rules. Bizarre experimental weapons. Mysterious events. Conspiracies and cover-ups.
When governments destroy files, we can't help but wonder why.
Unexplained phenomena.
The RAF doesn't have an explanation for the crew's report.
When a world goes to war with itself, things get weird. A series of close encounters with floating glowing spheres. These are highly experienced pilots, and they don't know what they're seeing. The British government launches an urgent investigation.
Could these be alien craft of some sort?
Winter 1942. Despite the early success of Operation Barbarossa, Hitler's invasion of Russia is coming to a bloody and disastrous end.
You can definitely see the difference.
His fierce fighting style, his fierce fighting attack, his good struggle for air superiority. The whole feature is at the beginning of October, Germany successfully launches a rocket out of that war, later known as the V-2. It is the first ever man-made object to reach space.
The Nazis were on their knees. There's a rumour they're building a kind of wonder weapon that can change the whole course of the war.
A few weeks after the Germans reach space, RAF pilot PC Lumsden is flying over the in the Hurricane for a mission over occupied France. He is flying 7,000 feet. Suddenly he sees something. Two orange spheres of glowing light moving steadily towards his plane. He immediately thinks, of course, it has to be tracer flight. What else could it be? Then he realizes, oh, hang on, it's moving too slow. It's like nothing he's ever seen before. Whatever these things are, Lumsden tries to shake them off, sending his fighter into a dizzying sequence of spins and turns. But the mysterious spheres have no difficulty following his every move.
Whatever these lights are, they're still on his tail.
Frightened and confused, Lumsden plunges his Hurricane into a hair-raising 4,000 feet nosedive, accelerating to 260 miles per hour. He manages to pull out of the dive. The glowing spheres have gone. On his return to base, Lumsden reports the incident, but his story is dismissed.
At first, no one believes it. But then other pilots start reporting the same thing. So now the authorities have to take it seriously.
The number of reported sightings starts to multiply. It's not just individuals who have literally put to one famous sighting involves America's elite 450th Night Fighter Squadron. As the night fighters are flying over Germany, around 10 luminous spheres appear, as if out of nowhere. The floating objects surround the plane and move among them.
Moving independently, under their own control.
The orbs of light are so bright they illuminate the skies around the aircraft. Fearing that they are under attack, the onboard radar operators are told to check their screens, but there's nothing showing up.
These mysterious balls of light seem to be undetectable by radar.
This is a special ops night fighter squadron.
That's funny.
They're not allowed to fly.
This pilot steers the aircraft directly at the glowing balls of light, and they vanish. A few moments later, they reappear, but in a different location.
The unexplained lights follow the squadron for another 6 or 7 minutes, and then they vanish.
It's when these balls are intelligent, they seem to anticipate the pilot's next move.
As even more sightings are reported, word spreads about the bizarre hovering orbs of light. The pilot and crew give them a name, taken from a popular American comic strip.
There was this cartoon character, his catchphrase was, "Where there's food, there's fire." And this is what the Americans start calling them, the Foo Fighters.
American and British authorities need to find a plausible explanation for the Foo Fighters.
Some people suggest that the pilots who've seen these may have had one French cognac too many, but even teetotalers see them as well.
US Navy doctors Ashton Grabiel and Brian Clark conducted experiments on pilots to see if the Foo Fighters are mere tricks of the light.
You put the pilot in a dark room, then you shine a pinpoint of light in his eyes, and then you ask him, what's it doing?
Disorientated in the dark room and with no other visual references, many subjects report the light to be moving.
In fact, the light's not moving at all. It's standing perfectly still. This is a visual illusion.
The doctors call this illusion autokinesis. It's this fast movement of a light source caused by autokinesis that Grabiel cites as the most likely cause for Foo Fighters.
Tests. They're bigger, they're brighter, and they zig all over the sky.
What's more, When the Foo Fighters appear, there are often multiple witnesses. Surely they can't all be imagined.
Seems extremely little off to myself. If there are these lights in the sky, where are they coming from?
This led some to look to nature for an explanation. Could the glowing orbs be examples of a rare and little understood atmospheric disturbance known to meteorologists as ball lightning?
Ball lightning is one of those unexplained phenomena that just won't go away. People report seeing it, but scientists can't explain it.
Ball lightning can appear during or just after lightning strikes. The spheres can be the size of a grapefruit that can be as big as a beach ball. They are white, yellow, orange, red or blue in color, and just like the Foo Fighters, they appear and disappear without a trace. There is a major difference.
Though it has been seen in or around planes, it's most typically observed on the ground.
Ball lightning has been reported to fly down chimneys and pass through walls. It's also been observed near aircraft, but doesn't last more than a few seconds. It's extremely rare and has never been seen in clusters. But Foo Fighters often come in numbers and travel alongside aircraft for as long as 10 minutes. So whatever a Foo Fighter is, it's not ball lightning. The British authorities ordered their own investigation by the Air Ministry's Operation Research Section.
And the investigation is entitled Recent Enemy Pyrotechnic Activity Over Germany. What the British want to know is, could this be a secret Nazi wonder weapon?
As the war turns against the Nazis, Hitler begins to pin his hopes on futuristic weapons developed by his rocket scientists. They call these sinister inventions Wunderwaffen. The most extraordinary is the new V2 rocket, the first man-made object ever to leave Earth's atmosphere.
The V2 was developed by some of the very same Nazi scientists who had later helped NASA put a ban on the
The Foo Fighters start to appear at the same time as the launch of the first ever V2 rocket, but they cannot themselves be V2s.
V2s travel where that makes sense to the speed of sound. They don't slow down and they don't hop. So you actually have to ask yourself, could the Nazis have developed another type of wonder weapon? One that behaves exactly like the Foo Fighters?
The Nazis were rumoured to be trying to develop aircraft that had vertical takeoff and landing capabilities.
A program to develop a bell-shaped aircraft was said to have made significant breakthrough. The central cockpit was surrounded by rotating adjustable wing vanes, which gave the aircraft lift. 15 prototypes were built.
And this was not the only weapon. According to some investigators, Nazi scientists also developed an airborne drone known as a foible. A jet-propelled, pilotless flying disc. It was fitted with electromagnetic charges to play havoc with an enemy's aircraft's electrical systems, jamming radar and even stalling engines. But no such interference was ever reported by pilots encountering Foo Fighters.
There are no collisions, no breakdowns, no ill effects of any kind to the heavy or Foo Fighter and the end of their wing.
So if this was a top secret German weapon, it was a pretty lame one. The Foo Fighters, it seems, cannot be explained by any technology known to exist at the time.
Why couldn't this be extraterrestrial activity? Why couldn't they be checking out what we're doing down here on planet Earth? Why we're fighting?
At the time of the Foo Fighter encounters, the term UFO hadn't even been coined.
But as the war ends and Nazi technology ushers in a new space age, the possibility of life beyond Earth captures the public's imagination. Files declassified by the British government in 2010 refer to an alleged sighting by an Allied reconnaissance aircraft returning from France.
The airmen say that they've seen this weird metallic object that appears to hover noiselessly by their plane and then disappear without a trace.
In the declassified report, Churchill and President General Eisenhower are said to have discussed the encounter.
According to hearsay, Churchill declared that the incident should be classified for at least 50 years because he feared a mass panic.
But these claims have never been officially confirmed.
It was generally the case that before 1967, all UFO files were destroyed after 5 years. So if there was a record, we're never going to find it.
When governments destroy files, they can't help but wonder why.
Reports of Foo Fighters remain among the weirdest events of the war.
The Foo Fighters ultimately remain unexplained.
2008. Construction workers digging foundations in a Polish town make a terrifying discovery.
There are over 2,000 bodies in this one pit.
This secret mass grave lay hidden for 70 years.
Was it another atrocity carried out against the Jews by Nazi execution squads?
But the authorities struggle to find an answer. Who are these people, and what happened to them?
Most of the bodies show no sign of providing death. Who these people were is a mystery.
October 2008, Malbork, northern Poland. Labourers are digging foundations for a luxury hotel next to one of Poland's biggest tourist attractions. The town's 13th century castle, the Teutonic Order. But as they dig down, they make a gruesome discovery.
A human skeleton is embedded in the earth with what appears to be a bullet hole in its skull. Heavy rain causes more of the earth to fall away. Hundreds more skeletons are exposed. Everywhere the workers look, there are bones.
Appalling atrocities took place in this region during the Second World War. In some areas, the majority of the population were ethnic Germans, but minorities were persecuted. Within days of the German invasion on 5th of September 1939, the SS shot more than 1,000 Poles and Jews in the town of Bydgoszcz, which is not far from Malbork in East Prussia, then known by its German name, Barium.
The Nazis carried out horrific crimes in this area, and within 8 weeks they had burned down 530 towns and villages and murdered most of their populations.
To the Nazis, Jews and Slavs were Untermenschen, subhuman, and Lebenswürdig, unworthy of life. Himmler wanted the Poles to be decimated.
It was a brutal chapter of the war.
In 1945, when Allied forces sweep across German-occupied Europe, the horrifying scale of the Nazis' grotesque crimes is exposed.
The Nazis systematically exterminated thousands of innocent victims. This was murder on an industrial scale, and there was simply no denying what they had done. The mass graves of their victims were simply too big to conceal.
And yet in 2008, investigators examining the newly found mass grave can find no historic evidence that such an atrocity had been taking place in Malbork.
When they speak to the local townspeople, no one has any knowledge of the massacre. No stories have been handed down, not even any rumors.
The vast majority of women and children, very few men. But who were they and when did they die? It seems incredible that 2,000 bodies can be buried in a single mass grave, and there's no one who can trace how they died.
I am going to heaven!
To begin with, it is naturally assumed that this massacre is the work of the Nazis.
The Nazis' philosophy of hatred was spread from the moral basis. Their troops murder thousands upon thousands of people. There are certainly some aspects of the site which strongly suggest that the Nazis were responsible.
The corpses at the bottom of the heap have been buried naked, stripped of possessions and identifying features.
There are no clothes, no identification of even any false teeth.
In the extermination camps at Auschwitz and elsewhere, victims were shaved, rings ripped from their fingers, gold teeth removed with pliers.
The removal of personal effects like glosses and even dentures summons up the spirits of the extermination in the concentration camps.
But there is something very strange about the mass grave discovered in Malmborg.
Only the top bodies look as though they've been shot. In the others, there's no sign of execution. There are no gas chambers visible.
What's more, if these are the bodies of locals, they're likely to have been ethnic Germans, not Polish victims of the Nazis.
So how did they die?
Could the bodies at the bottom of the pit have been victims of frostbite? The appalling effects of freezing became evident in the Arctic winter of 1941, when Hitler sent German soldiers without adequate winter clothing to fight on the Eastern Front. Those that witnessed the retreating troops were shocked.
Thousands of soldiers were mutilated by the frost. They lost limbs, arms and legs. They lost their nose, their ears, even their sexual organs.
But forensic investigation does not suggest frostbite as the cause of death for the bodies in the Malborg mass grave. The first clue to what really happened at Malborg comes from the grave itself. The Nazis typically forced their victims to dig their own mass grave. But crucially, the bodies at Malborg lie in a bomb crater. This is a form of mass burial more often used by the Soviets. The population of this region were not just victims of the Nazis. 17 days after the Germans invaded Poland from the west, the Soviet Union invaded from the east. Over 20,000 Polish soldiers were taken to forests and executed by the communist NKVD, the forerunners of the KGB. One Russian soldier complained he had blisters on his trigger finger from shooting poles in the back of the head.
On the face of it, it looks suspiciously like the Soviets may have been to blame. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
When the Nazis came, many Poles and Jews were sent to the death camps. Those who remained sank into destitution. Weakened by malnutrition, they were more vulnerable to disease. The lack of soap and bad sanitation caused the spread of lice, and the lice carried typhus.
Typhus thrives in unsanitary conditions. During the course of the First World War, 3 million people fell victim to the disease, and it's spread by lice living in clothes.
That most of the bodies in the grave show no signs of violence suggests the population of Marienburg may well have fallen victim to typhus. Even so, people attempted to escape before the Russians got there.
Eyewitness accounts report that there were too many women and children trying to desperately get a place on too few trains that were leaving the city before the Soviet army arrived.
As the Soviet troops advanced, they were fearful of catching the highly infectious diseases which were rife in the region.
Maybe this is what happened back in 1945. That Marienburg was in the grip of a typhus epidemic.
It's believed that the Soviets may have rounded up healthy locals and forced them to strip the weakened typhus victims, not already close to death, and to push them into bomb craters. One effective way to destroy typhus is to bury the dead and then to burn their infected clothes, and that effectively kills the illness and kills the germ and prevents its spread.
That would explain why the bodies at the bottom of the grave were found naked. But then what would explain the bullet holes in the skulls of the bodies in the top layer?
The very act of removing the clothes from the typhus victims exposes the people doing the clothes removal to the bacteria themselves, and should almost certainly give them prisons of war. Potentially, after they finished that unsavory task, they turned round
could this Soviet atrocity have gone unreported? How did the communists succeed in concealing it? After the war, this part of East Prussia became Poland, and Mariupol was renamed Malbork. The region was then subjected to decades of communist rule.
Under Soviet rule, there was no free speech. The slightest word against the authorities would have extremely serious consequences.
Under these conditions of terror, the communists could simply rewrite history. They were assisted in this by the Allies. The British Foreign Office, it is now known, colluded in the cover-up of communist atrocities in Eastern Europe.
Even Churchill and Roosevelt were very willing to blame the Nazis for these communist outrages because they wanted to maintain their very delicate alliance with Stalin.
However they died, 7 decades on, the identities of the bodies found in the grave at Malbork are still unknown. The people remaining are forgotten dead. A wonder weapon inspired by Hollywood horror. A crazy dentist with an even crazier plan. And a bizarre secret mission that goes horribly wrong.
When the truth starts to emerge, it sounds like a horror story brought to life.
A squadron of blood-sucking vampires is sent to wreak havoc on the earth.
It's the stuff of horror movies, except that it's true. Well, almost.
The story begins with a mystery fire. May 15, 1943, New Mexico. For no obvious reason, a fire breaks out at a brand new U.S. Army flight training station. Carlsbad American Army Air Base turns into a raging inferno.
The barracks, control tower, offices and hangars were all destroyed in a matter of minutes.
Smoke is billowing hundreds of feet into the air. They have no idea what's going on.
Personnel are evacuated from the buildings and stare in disbelief. The base is not under attack.
This isn't some Japanese commando raid. There are no soldiers attacking the base and no one seems to breach security.
No one can explain what's happened, and even stranger still, the base firefighters aren't even allowed in to fight flames.
It's deeply suspicious. The base is less than a year old. It has been built several miles southwest of the town of Carlsbad in the Mexican desert to train bomber crews for the war against Germany and Japan. The base is an obvious target for the Japanese.
People are very aware of the dangers involved in the aftermath of the London blitz and the attack on Pearl Harbor. So, are Americans in danger?
The Japanese have already demonstrated their mainland America. On the evening of the 23rd of February 1942, a Japanese submarine slips undetected towards the Santa Barbara coast. The target is the Elwood oil field.
Elwood was a key oil field on the Californian coast, and it supplied the whole Santa Barbara area. Because it was so close to the sea, it made it an easy target for any Japanese naval bombardment.
For 20 minutes, the Japanese sub is free to fire at Elwood's massive oil tanks before silently sailing away. Was the inferno at the Carlsbad Air Base the result of another Japanese submarine attack?
Carlsbad is 500 miles inland, and even the Japanese didn't have weapons that powerful. Whatever caused these fires, it sure as hell wasn't a submarine.
Then was this the work of Japanese agents already in the United States?
The Americans are willing to believe the Japanese will do anything.
President Roosevelt ordered an internment of Japanese and Japanese-American citizens. And there was no right to appeal. Once these people were put away, they were put away. Because this was a time of paranoia.
Was the Carlsbad fire the work of guerrilla fighters originating from the camps?
On the whole, the Japanese internment camps were peaceful places, and there's very few reports of people escaping or going AWOL.
The Carlsbad incident remains unexplained for more than 30 years. But in 1974, a set of highly classified wartime government documents are